Hey, this is Brandon Crawford from the San Francisco Giants, and you're listening to Torture Cast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Let's go, Giants! With hosts Willie Dills, Chad King, Ben Lee, and Eric Nathanson. Dedicated to the greatest team in Major League Baseball, the San Francisco Giants. This is Torture Cast. Standing on time, not gonna stop. We came to play. Ain't slowing down, falling on. We're here to stay. And we're stomping on whatever's in our way. I'm feeling like a Giant tonight.
It's Monday, July 8th, 2019, and this is episode 171 of The Torture Cast, a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, Chad King, and joining me today, sliding into the All-Star break from Georgia, is Eric Nathanson. How's it going, man? What are you going to do your All-Star break? You going to go fishing? You're going to take some time off with the family since you're not in Cleveland?
I'm going to go play poker. Let's do that.
Okay, that's a good.
I'll go hide in a casino for 4 days. Yeah, that's a great break. Hide in the air conditioning casino for 4 days. I mean, that's my idea. You going to take the family on a nice little fishing trip?
Sure, why not? Oh man, I wish. Man, getting back from Hawaii, it's been only a couple of weeks, but it really does feel like we never left. Just like back in the doldrums of summer, trying to keep up with the kids' schedule and my work and my wife's work, and it's just like, what? This isn't what summer's supposed to be. Summer's supposed to be backyard barbecues and vacations and fishing, like you say, even going to the casino. I want to maybe drive over to Reno to a dirty hole in the wall and play some poker, but those things aren't happening anytime soon. But what is happening today is talking about Giants baseball. We couldn't make last week work. We just had some scheduling conflicts, but we're back here, which is fine. The Giants are actually playing quite well as of late. And so that's what we want to talk about, a little bit of hope, if you will, for the Giants. But they did go 8-5 since we last recorded, and in that previous episode, they had gone 7-5. So, gosh, the last 4 weeks, they're definitely well above 500. So overall, they're 41-48, 7 games below. They're still in last place in the NL West. They're still 17.5 back of LA. Still have the third worst record in the National League, and they're 3 games back of Colorado for fourth place. That all sounds really bad, but overall, they're getting much closer to the bunch, or to the pack. I guess you can say they're 5.5 games out of the second wild card spot. So that alone at least makes it feel a little bit better, doesn't it?
So you're telling me there's a chance?
No, I'm not, but it still makes me feel better.
Yeah, mathematically there is. It's nice to not see them as the bottom of the barrel anymore. You mentioned that. That means they went 15-10 over their last 25 games, which is a good clip for the Giants. They've been competitive. They've had fun. They've entertained us for the past couple of weeks, which is not something that they were doing earlier this season. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're into July now, and June. They finished June with a winning record. They went 14-13 during the month of June, and I'm not sure any of us expected any winning records this season during a month. Oh. So I'm pretty impressed by that. And since they're on their little tear, they're 5-1 since the calendar turned to June, and the Giants just started hitting. And I think that that's the inspiration for hope, and we've seen bubbling up from Giants fans, is they're finally hitting again. And it brings them back to looking like a normal team. There's no more, how are they going to screw this up again? Granted, it's always there, but they're not screwing it up as much anymore. So while it is nice to see them competitive and winning games and stuff like that, it's a little too soon for me to think that they are going to make a run.
Yeah, and in no way am I saying this is impossible, and I'll get this out of the way quick because I do not want to dwell on the negatives, but just for those of you out there that do think the Giants have a pretty good chance at making the playoffs, or it's kind of an outside chance, it's actually a lot harder than that. And really the main reason is not because they're 5.5 games back. If they only had 1 or 2 teams ahead of them that they had a leapfrog, I'd be all in saying, hey, let's see how far we can ride this thing. Maybe they will have a shot. The reality is there's 7 teams ahead of them for the wild card spot. And so the chances of the Giants being not just better than those 7 teams, but they also have to make up the have to 5.5 games over all of those 7 teams. So it's not just having a better record than 7 teams, which is roughly half of the National League, but it's also making up that ground too in kind of a limited amount of time. So that's why sites like Fangraphs and Vegas have the Giants at a 0.7% chance of making the playoffs. And people look at that number and they get shocked, but that's the reason for that calculation. It's the fact that even if you rolled the dice out of 7 teams or 8 teams, they'd have a 1 in 7 or 8 chance. But then you factor in how good the team really is and how they've performed and the games that they have to make up. So that's why if you look at the Mets, for example, the Mets are actually worse than the Giants. They're further back, yet they are rated at a 5.9% chance of making the wild card. And why is that? It's not because of the wild card. It's because they're much closer to the East leaders in Atlanta and Philly. So they kind of up those chances. The Giants are 17.5 games back of the West. So the Dodgers are predicted to be a lock, or 99.9% currently to win the West. So that's how those factors come into play. But I know a lot of people out there are numbers and computer nerds. Be damned. The Giants are playing better, and let's just let this thing play out. And I'm all for that. I mean, hey, look, if the Giants go on some crazy, 10-game winning streak and suddenly are a game out, then it's a different story. But we have to wait to see if that's going to happen.
Right. That's the key right there, is just vaulting over everybody. And I look at the Mets. It's funny that you use them as an example, because that's who I noticed that the Giants had been in second to last like all the time, because Miami sucks. They're the bottom of the barrel. But, they finally passed another team in the Mets. But like you say, the Mets themselves still have a better % chance. And at least the Giants aren't the Mets. At least their general manager isn't throwing chairs through walls before the manager has to go give a press conference. I mean, that's the one thing that we can take from all this, is the Giants are finding some stability in a sense. And while we know that there's going to be moves, it's going to change. The players came out yesterday and they were like, we're hoping we're showing management, a reason not to sell. And Zaidi talked to the media, his halfway through the season address type thing. And, he joked that it's nice that to see Bochy smiling a little bit. And I think that that's still kind of what the goal is. Just get Boch to the 2,000 win mark. Try to have a competitive season and not embarrass him on the way out, because, they're a competitive bunch, and the Giants, they've got a reputation of having a crappy farm system, and there's no way to replenish the farm system without getting rid of some of these major league ready guys like Will Smith, Madison Bumgarner, possibly a Belt, possibly a Pilar Longo if they can, figure it out. And all these guys are contributing lately too, which is good. It makes for better baseball, but I'm not pinning my hopes on anything. I'm just going to enjoy the ride for what it is. This is what we said at the beginning of the season. Enjoy the nice moments when they come. Well, the last few weeks have been one of those times, and we'll go over the last couple of weeks here soon. It's amazing. I see you have the run differential, and that's I'll start with the 40 runs they scored in that 4-game stretch. They're averaging over their last 7 games, they're averaging over 7 runs a game. This is a team that didn't score over 8 runs a game for 2 months into the season. So, the weather's warmer, the ball is flying more this year. So, the Giants are finally coming back to the norm.
Yeah, we knew that would probably happen at some point, and it definitely has happened over the last week. Like you said, 40 runs in 4 games. I think out of those 4 games, they scored double digits 3 times. I think it was 2 10s, a 13, and a 7. And then, over 7 runs a game over the last 7, including just the 1 run they got yesterday. So it's been completely refreshing to see. They're not winning these games, at least every game, 1-0 like yesterday. They're actually been putting some distance between them and their opponents, and they've now won 6 out of 7, which is just fantastic. I love to see this. But like you said, we're just kind of sit back and enjoy the ride right now. I'm not at all in that stressful situation or position where the Giants are starting to falter or they're close to the lead and, oh my gosh, it's getting down in the last 60 games. What's going to happen? It's kind of like, look, we know where this team is going to end up roughly, and they're not going to be in the postseason, but let's enjoy it for what it's worth, just pure entertainment. And it is very fun to watch this team come out and smoke the ball and score 8 runs in a game. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was unexpected. There's been some shots in the arm. Dick joining the team has just been huge. Austin Slater has been a breath of fresh air since he's come up. I made a joke the other day after Slater hit his pinch hit grand slam. He was so fired up in the dugout that I wish I was as fired up about this Giants team as Slater is. But the reality of the fact is these are just those times, and it's great to see. Even Longo got his swing back this past week. Will Smith continues to dominate. So all the good storylines are still kind of playing themselves out.
Yeah. So in the last couple of weeks, we've talked about their horrific run differential, which you just mentioned. They were at minus 90 2 weeks ago in our last podcast. They've shaved that down to minus 70. That's a lot of runs to shave off in a period of 13 games. Which is just fantastic. So they're at minus 70. It's still second worst in the National League, but they're creeping up on Pittsburgh and some other teams, or New York, I should say, and some other teams. So that's good. That's good. I think, series by series, we have to take a step back and realize they've won 6 out of 7, which is just great. But that's a week of baseball, everyone. That's not 3 weeks or 4 weeks of baseball, even though they are 15-10 over the last 25, and that's 600 ball, which is great. Even 600 ball the rest of the way is not getting into the playoffs. And that's my point. They have to play absurdly better than that, like closer to 700 ball or better to make the playoffs. That said, you look back at the beginning of this 2-week stretch, and they lost 2 out of 3 to Colorado, and then they split at home against Arizona. So the week started out 3-4, kind of mediocre, not spectacular. But then they went down to San Diego and had their first 3-game sweep of the year. Against the Padres, and then took 2 out of 3 from St. Louis after losing the first one with that dramatic come from behind. Well, not come from behind, but tight game victory yesterday. So it's all been mostly recent for this streak, and then overall over the last month they've played above 500, and I think that's all you can ask from this particular Giants team right now. But Zaidi did come out in his address that you mentioned, kind of hinting to people, and it's really, I think Eric and I, you and I both agree, it's more of just what a GM has to say, a bit of a smokescreen. We all know the Giants are going to be sellers. They're looking for the right deal. They're not going to sell Bumgarner or Smith for chump change. They definitely want quality prospects and maybe even major league ready talent right now. But he's also not going to say, as they approach the deadline, oh yeah, we're definitely still selling, still looking for someone to buy Bum, just waiting for offers to come in. Now, he's going to use this recent momentum by the Giants to kind of flip it a little bit and ride the narrative of, hey, we don't know. I mean, we'll just see how this thing rides out. We might even be buyers. We might even sell some talent. You just said it, Eric. The Giants don't really have any minor league talent to sell. What they do have, they would never sell to try and catch up with a 1 or 2% chance of making the playoffs. Zaidi's an analytical guy. Everybody in the organization knows that would be career suicide. He would never do that. But he's got to say what he's got to say. But I know some of the public and some of the Giants fans have latched onto that, saying, hey, look at Zaidi's right. Maybe we do have a chance at this. I don't know. What did you think about those comments?
Well, it's GM speak. It's totally his GM speak. He's got to. He's in a job where he's got to please multiple people at the same time. He's got to please upper management. He's got to please the players in a sense, to make sure that they'll go out and compete every day. So he's going to say those things. And, the Giants themselves, the players, I'm sure they feel positive. I'm sure they feel like they can compete now. But, the talent's just not where it needs to be. And I was gonna bring it back to you. You went to the game last Sunday when Bumgarner was solid against Arizona and they won 10-4. That start of that little streak where they started scoring a ton of runs. What was the vibe like in the ballpark? I guess what I'm asking is I've seen it on social media. People say, when you're at the ballpark, these people don't care that the team is down, 19 games in the standings. And I agree with that, because if I go to a game and I'm cheering for a team, I don't care what the standings are. I'm going to cheer for the team on that day, just like I do from my couch. So, is the vibe at the ballpark still like a good upbeat vibe, or, is there people walking around going, yeah, well, this is fun, but...
Yeah, I think the vibe was still good in that game. They won 10-4, so it was a lot of fun to see the Giants explode for that many runs. Bumgarner pitched very well. I think he only allowed 1 run that game. He didn't allow the 4. So the crowd was into it. What I think was disappointing to me is that's the first game I attended all year, and so I didn't really have the physical impact, visual impact of how empty the stadium was relative to years past. Now, most teams would kill to have 30,000 in their park, but 30,000 sold tickets is, roughly 3/4 of the stadium. But of course, there were a lot of empty seats from probably season ticket holders that just didn't even come. So I'd say the park was maybe 65% full, maybe. So just when they scored, there was cheering and roaring, but in no way was it similar or as loud as it had been in years past. So I think that's what was disappointing to me. But for those that were there, very enthusiastic.
Well, that's good because it's our team. We're always going to root for them. Yeah. Like I will love the Giants forever. You take the good, you take the bad, you have fun with the facts of life that come through. So it's just, it makes for an easier season. I couldn't imagine if we were rooting for the Marlins or the Tigers or the Orioles or the Royals. It's not the same. Those team and fan bases, they seem overly frustrated at always watching stuff. And I do appreciate Giants fans are enjoying the good things. And that Sunday game when they got the split with Arizona that you were at, you and I were texting back and forth. The 10 runs they scored in that game were the most runs they scored in a home game all season. It was the first time they had reached double digits. It was the first time they had reached 9 runs in a game at home all season. So, there's been reason for hand-wringing over, people not wanting to show up and stuff like that. And it's good to see that even like Sunday afternoons, the crowds are coming out, and that game against Arizona, it rolled right into that 3-game sweep in San Diego. And the Giants were like a different team in those 3 games in San Diego. It was almost like watching the Dodgers beat up on the Marlins for a little bit. There was some closeness in one of the games. I think was a little tighter than the other ones, but the Giants, they weren't deterred. They kept coming back. There it was, the 7-5 victory. 7-5. That Wednesday game, the third game of the series to get the sweep, because they won the first game 13-2, the second game 10-4. Those are blowouts. Smarja, hat tip to Smarja for the way he's been pitching lately. Mm-hmm. It's just been absolutely phenomenal. And then that Wednesday game was a seesaw battle, and the Giants didn't die. And that was the best part to see, is that they just absolutely refuse to die in most situations right now, because they scored 3 in the top of the third to take a 3-2 lead, immediately handed it back, and we're down 4-3 after 4, but they put a 4 spot in the 6th inning of that third game and won 7-5. Again, it was just, they finally are taking advantage of situations. They're situationally hitting better. They're driving guys around. And honestly, the fact that Evan Longoria finally figured it out again has been a real, real big help.
Yeah, I'd like to think that they've won 6 out of 7, including the game I went to, has something to do with my presence, but I guess I can't make that direct connection. But I will say that after
you can in 2 months when they're back in the wild card race. We'll point to that.
Since
Sunday.
Chad went to his first game of the year, they've gone 27-3. Yeah, that'd be great. No, but going into the clubhouse, first of all, I guess they have a new tradition this year where when they win a home game, the dry ice machine, the fog machine comes out in the clubhouse. So when I was walking down to the press room for the Bochy post game, I walk in front of the clubhouse there, and there's just all this smoke coming out of the clubhouse, and it's just hilarious. And they're like, "Oh, excuse me, sir, can I see your credentials?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Okay, yeah, you got to go down to press. You can't go in the clubhouse now." I said, "Oh, I know." I said, "What's up with the dry ice?" As I'm like going, and they're like, "Oh, it's after every win. Didn't you know that?" And I was kind of like, "No, I didn't." I had no idea. But then afterwards, after Bochy's presser, we came in, and there was still a little bit of the fog left, but the music was pumping, and you get a vibe after certain games when they lose. Guys are kind of moping around and dragging their feet, and they're just a body language thing, right? Which is, it's human nature. But after this game, a lot of the players seem to be kind of bopping around, talking, a lot more energy. And then you had Kevin Pillar, Will Smith, and Madison Bumgarner came out for the post-game interviews, and they all seem fairly upbeat. Even it's hard to tell with Bum sometimes, but he was cracking jokes and smiling. You could tell he was in a fairly good mood. Will Smith was just incredulous that he made the All-Star game, because that was the day they announced it officially, was when I was there. And so, I think most people knew he was going to be the representative for the Giants, but he's probably just saying it more than anything. But he's like, honestly, guys, I honestly didn't think I was going to make it. And they're like, well, who else from the Giants is going to make it? And he's like, well, I don't know. I'm just saying. I didn't think I was going to make it. I think he was trying to be nice.
And you can appreciate that from a guy like that. And I hat tip to him. He got engaged over the past week.
On the boat there, too. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, it was funny that he shared a picture, but he's on the phone in one of the pictures. But, I mean, the Giants, they put that promo out. They have a Friends Night, or they had one coming up or something like that. And Posey and his wife, Panic and his wife, and Will Smith and his now fiance, they played. Yeah. And they did it. It was shot for shot.
It was good. It was well done.
They nailed it. It was unbelievable.
It was well done. No, and then Kevin Pillar, he's this is the first time I've seen him close up, and he's like exactly my height. You know what I mean? He just looks like a normal dude on the street. I know it's true with a lot of baseball players. It's probably the only sport which that's true, right? You see basketball players and football players, and even hockey players to a certain extent, although you have a little more variety. And you're like, whoa, he's an athlete. He's a professional athlete. He's a collegiate athlete. There could be an all-star like an Altuve or Kevin Pillar or Pablo Sandoval walking around the streets. You had no idea. You would have no idea that person was a professional athlete. That's the same with Pillar. He's in really good shape, but I'm just saying he's not an imposing figure. But he was, he seemed to be in a good mood. But yeah, it was a happy flight. They went down to San Diego, won the first two, and then I do have an audio highlight. You just mentioned they were down 2-0 and 4-3. This was in the top of the third when they were down 2-0. The Giants went back-to-back with Longo and Dickerson.
High and deep. Left center field. It is out of here. He's done it again. Oh, goodness, is he hot.
Oh, yeah, you think back to his first at-bat when he lined out to Tatis Jr. It was a 107-mile-an-hour bullet. He's got a bat in his hand right now. He's in the weeds.
High drive. Right field. It is out of here. How good does that feel? He might slide into home.
Head first.
Yeah, that was awesome to see the Giants go back-to-back. It's fun times.
Yeah, and it's funny too because it was a great timing for Longoria's homer, but he hit one the day before that hit the top of that warehouse down the left field line. It was the best ball Longoria has hit in a Giants uniform. It was just absolutely demolished. It was like 5 stories up on that warehouse. I mean, if that warehouse wasn't there, that ball might have ended up in the ocean.
Yeah, and he had 4 home runs in that series in San Diego. And he's hit 5 over the last week. So he is this is no doubt that was the best series that Longo has played for the Giants. And this is probably the best week of baseball he's ever played for the Giants, no doubt. So I think after the break, there might be a little bit of a letdown. And I think that's a little bit of a frustration about it. In fact, Bochy referenced it after the 3rd of July game, because for some weird reason, the Giants had no baseball on July 4th. Now, they had 21 straight days of baseball, so they needed an off day. It just happened to fall on July 4th, which hasn't happened for like 40-something years. So it was a little unusual. The Giants also didn't play on Memorial Day, if you recall. To have 2 major holidays, the Giants didn't play. And Bochy even referenced it like, we might have an inter-squad game because we're playing hot. And when you're playing hot, and I remember this, and you played baseball too, when you're hot, you have a game where you go 3 for 4, 4 for 5, you want to get right back out there. You're like, do we have a doubleheader? Do we have a triple header? Can we play tomorrow? Can we, and you just get in that groove and you want to keep it moving. You want to keep it going. And so that's the way baseball players are. It's partially confidence, partially superstition. It's all kind of interconnected. And, they skip the 4th of July and they lose that first game against the Cardinals, which is kind of funny. I was like, oh, there you go. But to the Giants' credit, they came right back and won the next 2 games, which was fantastic. So the first game they lost, second game, Madison Bumgarner actually made that start. I almost went to that game. I wanted to go to another Bum game just in case it was his last. And he was hit by a line drive in the first inning, but he ended up lasting another inning, and there was a little bit of subterfuge is that after the second inning, it was already agreed that Bum was going to be taken out, but it was a last-minute decision. So they needed to buy some time for, I think Dyson was coming in. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I think
it was Sam Dyson. Yeah.
And so basically it was like, okay, well, Bum, go back out there and take your warm-up pitches and then call for the trainer. So it gave Dyson time. So he went out there, did his warm-up pitches, and they said, oh, something's wrong with my arm. And then the trainer and Bochy came out, and then it took him out. So it gave him the 5 minutes, 4 minutes, or whatever for him to warm up. But X-rays proved negative. It was a large contusion. It looked nasty, this big egg on the back of his tricep. But in his post-game interview, he said, other than feeling kind of the swelling in the back of the arm, it's not painful at all. And he said he could throw. He could throw fine, but he understands the training staff and Bochy wanting to play it cautious. So, and he's confident he could pitch again if he needed to in 5 days. He won't have to because they have the All-Star break now. And so now we just have to kind of wait and see in regards to if his next start is going to be pushed back or not. And if there's any residual issues from this line drive injury, if that could affect any bit of his trade value. I don't think right now, just my gut feeling after what everyone said, but we've seen stranger things, Eric. We've seen guys brush off injuries and then Kevin Durant, and things just kind of spiral out of control. So we'll see.
Well, as Bum said, I knew it wasn't broke.
Yeah.
So
It wasn't broke.
Yeah, he knew it wasn't. I mean, this is a man who took a line drive off of his hand, last year, so he would know. I expect to see him starting the first game out of the break in Milwaukee. He's been pitching a lot better lately, too. His fastball velocity has been up. He's just been pounding the zone more, and the right-handed hitters are not hammering him like they used to. That cutter has been working really, really well lately, and he's pulling out the curveball when he needs to. And so it was funny though in that game by sending him back out there. Yeah, it was so they could get Dyson as many warmups, because when you replace a pitcher for injury, the new replacement gets to warm up as long as he wants, because it's unfair to put a pitcher in cold like that. And that goes all the way on down to Little League. If that happens in one of your son's games, the umpire has to allow him, the new pitcher, to warm up more than the normal 8 warm-up pitches that he would maybe get in that situation. And it was, Bum just being Bum about it, saying, oh, it was nothing. And, it was, I agree with them pulling him from the game. Forget about the whole trade value. He's still a member of the team, of the organization, and you still don't want to put him in danger in any way, shape, or form. You have your team to worry about. You have his career to worry about. So there's no need to force it. Maybe was there a thought in the back of Zaidi's mind, oh no, I don't want him to go back out there hurt and get lit up and hurt the trade value? Maybe. But when Bochy and Greshner are making the decision as to whether or not to sit Bumgarner down, they're not thinking about anything but that game and Bumgarner's future. So it was good to see, too, that the Giants, I don't want to say rallied, because, they did rally. They put up a 4 spot in the 4th inning that game, and they gave up some runs late. But, that was just an overall, dominant performance from the team. 11 hits, 8 runs against the Cardinals on that Saturday night game.
Yeah, it could have been a butterfly effect thing. You think Bumgarner's coming out, it's a 1-1 game. You're like, okay, well, we'll see how long the bullpen will last. It kind of felt like one of those games that the Giants may let get out of hand, but it did not. And as you referenced, here we go in the bottom of the 4th with bases loaded and 1 out, and Austin Slater coming up. He hadn't been up with the team too long, but he had a prime opportunity here. And instead of grounding into the double play, which I think a lot of Giants fans expected, this happened.
Driven to right, hit well, down the line, out of here. Swinging Austin Slater, it's a grand slam.
every once in a while, this ballpark will remind you just how short it is to right field. Just to get it in, lazy hanging slider. And Slater knows he gets it pretty good. You can see him walking out of the box. He's measuring it out. But you just don't trust right field if you're a right-handed hitter. And watch the carry. And in the end, he gets himself his first grand slam.
Yeah, that's what was so cool about it. Right field, it is a tall wall, the Willie Mays 24-foot wall, but it's only 309 down the line. If you can poke it there, it will go, a la JT Snow's home run, and of course this, a couple others like that. It'd be great if, a couple of these righties, and Buster Posey used to be able to do this more often, could push that ball to right field. They might have, quite a few more doubles and home runs off of that pavilion.
And when he hit it, I was not as certain as apparently they thought Slater was. It was like the ball's juiced. I mean, I'm just going to say it. The ball is freaking juiced this year. And I really feel like his home run maybe not have been a home run a couple years ago, but might have just been a fly out to right field. But, hey, that's how the ball is, and the Giants took advantage. And it looked like it could have been a fly ball. And that was the Giants' first pinch hit grand slam in 16 years. And this is a team that
I didn't know that.
That this is a team too. Think about it. They didn't have, was it last year they didn't have a single grand slam, or maybe it was 2 years ago, that they've hit, I think, 3 of them this year. Dickerson, Pilar, and Slater, 3 guys that were not on the roster opening day, have all hit grand slams for the team this year. Mm-hmm. And to circle back to the pinch hit grand slam, I have to interject myself into this Giants history. The last time a Giants player hit a pinch hit grand slam was June 12th, 2003. The Giants were in Chicago playing the White Sox, and they were down 4-2 heading to the 9th inning. Barry hit a 2-run shot to tie the game. And then Aurelia hit a pinch hit grand slam, and the Giants won 8-4. And I'm not going to lie, the Sox fans hated me. I was on an aisle seat. We had really good seats. I was on an aisle seat. I was with some buddies who were all Sox fans. I was in my Bonds gear. I went running up and down the aisle. I had a couple beers thrown at me. I didn't care. It was just absolutely so much fun. And, because that's what those teams were. They were fun. But it's just amazing that it's been 16 years that since any Giants player has hit a pinch hit grand slam. And then the fact that the Giants just didn't hit grand slams for like 2 straight years. I mean, Kelby hit one like 3 years ago, and Belt hit one like 2 years ago. And I think that was it until Pilar hit his to start this season. So, or earlier in the season. So, the swinging of the bat, the ball's carrying a little bit, and sometimes it goes right for you. And, Pablo also contributed that game. I don't know if Pablo, he had a right-handed hit home run, right-handed for the first time all year.
Right-handed, home run. And so that was his 11th of the year, which is second on the team in, not many more than half the at-bats that the other guys have had. So on a per at-bat basis, Pablo is the Triple Crown leader. He's not, but per at-bat, he's been doing well. But at least Longo is doing well.
Yeah, that was a head whipping home run though. When Sandal, it barely got out, and some guy almost took it off his noggin, but like it hit it so solidly. Like I was looking down at the crack of the bat, my head. You know that feeling when you're watching a game and you might get distracted by the phone, the computer, the kids, the dogs, right? And you hit it, you hear it, and it's just like whoa, and the head goes up, and it's like oh my. And it was, Pablo. It's also nice to see Pablo contributing on such a limited basis. Like you said, he's 11 home runs. He's got 11 home. Why doesn't it say? Oh, because he's underneath. He's got 11 home runs and 192 plate appearances. Mm-hmm. Longoria has 300 plate appearances. That's 108 more plate appearances and only 1 more home run. Pilar, 12 home runs, 329 plate appearances. So, like you said, Pablo, if it were to be a per at-bat basis, he's the leader in the clubhouse in just about everything at that point. And he has absolutely embraced his role, and he fits in. He's second on the team in doubles behind Pilar and Posey. So he's absolutely fit into that role perfectly. And there's been some rumblings lately that some teams are starting to get interested in him.
Yeah, I think they would value him as a switch hitter. I know Boston won't be interested, but
they should be though.
Wouldn't that be something? That would just be funny. Yeah, as a valuable, bench player, switch hitter off the bench for the playoffs. I mean, I think he absolutely has value there. I don't know how much they could get from him, but I mean, they've only signed him through the end of this year. And I think if he continues to perform at this level, even if he only finishes with, 200, 300 plate appearances for the year, he's going to have value going to a team next year for a decent contract, probably not the minimum like the Giants have given him. So, yeah, we'll see. If the Giants get a good offer, then I'd say take it. But if it's just chump change, I don't know. It depends on if they think that chump change is going to turn into anything down the road.
And he's so lovable that you just don't want to do that to the fans. You really don't. I mean, we're already on board with certain trades. Don't take away the guy who has done the 180 and is back with open arms in our clubhouse, because, I mean, we talked about how pissed we were when he went to Boston and those comments he made. And now, I mean, he's the lovable panda again. Yeah. I don't think that Boston blip will be much of a remembrance, 20 years from now. So, don't do it. I agree with you. Do it if it's there, but don't do it for peanuts.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And he was funny in the clubhouse. When I was there, he was getting dressed in the corner, and Will Smith was being interviewed, and I was about a body or two away, and he comes over the left shoulder and just starts asking Will Smith for his jersey. Hey, can I have your jersey, man? Your All-Star jersey? Yeah, that'd be great, man. He's just totally interrupting the interview and his panda speak. It was just so awesome. Everybody chuckled and everything. And he went back to go get dressed. So yeah, he's back to being that energetic panda in the clubhouse, and I do think that most Giants fans have kind of forgiven him and forgotten what he said. Maybe he was his head got a little too big for himself, and he went to Boston for this massive contract, and maybe he felt like he wasn't loved by certain players. Like you said, at the time, he felt like only Bochy and Hunter were the only two that really liked him or appreciated him, and the rest of the team basically got on him for being fat, because apparently there was a point at which Buster and company came to him and said, look, you got to lose some weight. You're a valuable member of this team. And he didn't take kindly to that. So, but now that he's been back, I think he had a serving of humble pie, and he realizes, you know what, maybe this game is more about having fun, and I didn't realize how good I had it in San Francisco, including the fans, right? The fans who adore him, as opposed to Boston.
And maybe all this good stuff is what helped push Longo to get on the tear that he was, because, there had been chatter about maybe sticking Pablo out there every day, and then Longo's gone on that tear, and nobody's having that. And Sunday's game, yesterday's game against the Cardinals to end the break, I don't know about you, but I was starting to freak out they were going to get no hit in the last game before the All-Star break. They weren't making any solid contact off of Michaelis, I think is how you say it. Michaelis. They weren't making any solid contact against him at all until the seventh inning when Longoria stepped to the plate.
Longoria and Dickerson, remember the Giants don't have a hit. They've had one base runner in the fifth inning. High drive to left. It is out of here. Stay hot. Evan Longoria, the Giants take the lead.
We saw him do this 3 times in San Diego, where he got just a lazy hanging breaking ball. And if you watch the Cardinals, they set the target on the outside corner. One thing that Flaherty has not done today is miss his location with the breaking ball, and here he does.
Yeah, that was great. He just absolutely crushed it. I happened to be sitting down in the myriad of all these chores going, all right, I got to catch up on the Giants game. And I'd seen an alert that they were being no hit. So normally I record the game and catch up on this one, but I was like, well, they've been no hit. There's nothing to catch up on. So I sat down for literally Longo's at bat with a big old glass of water, and then boom, saw that. And I was like, wow, that was good timing. And then Dickerson followed with a bloop single that was dropped by the shortstop over his shoulder. And that's all the Giants had in 8 innings, I guess. 8 innings of hitting is just those 2 hits, but it was enough. Samardzija was good once again. Shut out the Cardinals through 6 or 7, and the bullpen took care of it. Will Smith got his 22nd save of the year, and the Giants go riding off into the break at 7 games under 500. And you're right. I think if the Giants, they got 1 run and 2 hits. Normally you'd say, oh my God, that's horrible. Now they go into the break feeling like that. Well, they got the W, and that's all that really matters. And so if they had gone into the break either losing 1-0 or getting no hit, it's that same thing. You want to keep playing, right? And so if you go right into this extended break of like, man, we could have had that game, or we were no hit, or we lost by 1 run, or whatever. It's really good for the Giants' psyche, I think, to have take 2 out of 3 as well from a decent team. The Cardinals are 500 this year, but they're always one of the playoff nemesis for the Giants.
And again, a hat tip to Shark. 7 innings, 4 hits, 2 Ks. Here's the key: no walks. They were starting to square him up in that 7th inning before Longo's homer, and it was almost like a yikes type thing as you were watching it, because they were really squaring him up. But a couple loud outs. Pilar made that unbelievable diving play for the first out in the top of the 7th inning, and then he caught another one at the wall where when Fowler hit it, he thought it was gone, and he absolutely got oracled, and Samardzija was able to get out of that inning. And Dyson, who has sneakily been really, really good, he struck out 3 batters in the 8th inning, and then, like you said, Will Smith came in and locked it down. Ironically, Smith didn't strike out anybody, and he's been just backfooting the crap out of right-handed hitters. They've been getting screwed into the ground swinging at his pitches. And the bullpen stepped up again. They looked like, a good, complete team as far as the bullpen stepped up when the offense didn't. The pitching stepped up when the offense wasn't there. And it's always nice to beat the Cardinals. I hate the Cardinals. Yeah, I will always hate the Cardinals. I don't know if I have a stronger hate of the Cardinals because of where I grew up, or if the fact that the 1987 playoffs is literally my real first Giants memory. So, the Cardinals will always be that, persona non grata in my estimation. And like you said, they're a decent team. So it was nice to see the Giants. And Goldschmidt still had his way. The man hit a homer on Saturday, but, the Giants were able to do that, and they head into the break. Like you said, 7 games under 500, and it could have been so much worse. They are nowhere near their low point of the season anymore.
Not at all. And you mentioned Samardzija having a great game. He actually, for all the hate that he gets for his inconsistency, he leads the starters in ERA this year at 4.01. Bum is just behind him at 4.03. So, and this is not even Sean Anderson's at 4.23, right? D-Rod, I know he's not starting anymore, 5.27. Beatty's at 5.64. Pomeranz 6.42. I know those are really high and out of the stratosphere kind of numbers. And a 4.01 leading the staff isn't exactly a good thing, but it is all relative. And so for people who are screaming for his head, I mean, they got to look at it and go, look, he's given us 2 amazing starts in a row. He was the winner of yesterday's 1-0 game. We're going to take it. Sam Dyson, who comes in, he's an old, he's been a reclamation project for the Giants since he was discarded by Texas, and he's been nothing but fantastic for them. He had a couple bumps in the road in the last couple years, but, this year he's been solid. He's got a 2.3 ERA in 43 innings, and he has immense trade value for a late-inning relief guy. Only Will Smith out of the pen is better than him, and he just nicked his ERA below 2 after yesterday's appearance to 1.98. And I misspoke. It was in his 22nd save, his 23rd save of the year. And he's a perfect 23 for 23. So just incredible. 53 strikeouts in 36.1 innings. So he's definitely been their most valuable bullpen asset.
And you go back to Shark for a second. He has not given up the most home runs on the team. Nope. That distinction belongs to both Bumgarner and Pomeranz, who have surrendered 17. Bumgarner surrounded 17 homers this year. Wow.
Yeah, it's most hard hit balls and most home runs per at bat of his career, and of course, Holland's up there too at 15.
Oh, I didn't even see him because he's tucked all the way down there with the relievers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Palm. It's funny because Pomeranz, we had a little flash of maybe Pomeranz, has gotten it together, and then he goes out and like Friday night lays the egg again, and that is a reclamation project that doesn't seem to be working out, which is okay. You take a flyer on guys, at this point when your team is where it's at. But, they are going into the All-Star break with momentum. I'm pretty sure that they are pissed that the All-Star break came when it did. But hopefully being in Milwaukee after the break will keep their hitting shoes on, because that park is a hitter's haven. And I can see Dick and Longo and even Pablo, maybe even Buster, maybe destroying that park a little bit over the weekend. I know the Brewers are tough, and we've seen that already. The Giants have played them this year, but heading into the break, it's not as bad as it could be. It really isn't. I'm really happy with this last week of Giants baseball. It's been a blast to watch.
And really, before June, I would have said there's very little chance the Giants are going to get to 74 wins to get Bruce Bochy his 2,000 wins as a manager. He already eclipsed 1,000 as a Giant, but they're actually on pace now to get, in fact, the latest pace is like 73.5 wins. So if they play as good as they have been recently, they could get in the mid to high 70s, but they need to get to 74. But it's definitely within their purview now. They're definitely capable of getting him the 2,000, and that's going to make me and I think a lot of Giants fans just very, very happy. Especially, we don't want to see him end up with 1999 or some BS like that, right?
Right.
Let him come back and manage one game next year. Let's see what happens.
89. So they're on a pace for times 162. Yeah, you're right. They're on a pace for 74.6 wins right now.
Yeah. So, they're right there. And that's with their current winning percentage. And obviously they've been playing better the last month. So you hope that maybe they can exceed that by a little bit, if they went 500 the rest of the year, which they're not, but maybe a few games under 500 the rest of the year, they'll get in the mid 70s, and that'd be great. So what's really cool is our who's hot and who's not list is a lot better this time. The who's hot, we talked a lot about it. Longo, last 6 games, he's hitting .429 with 5 bombs and 10 ribbies. Austin Slater, basically since he's been up, .429, 2 home runs, 9 RBI. That was including that grand slam. Kevin Pillar has been just stratospheric. His last 6 games, .462 with a couple of bombs and 10 RBI. These are really good numbers. This is great. Will Smith, obviously, the whole year he's been solid, 23 for 23, but he hasn't allowed an earned run in I don't know how many outings now. And then Dickerson, since being traded to the Giants, he's hitting .362 this year with 4 home runs and 15 RBI and just 47 at-bats. That's a 1.232 OPS. So, he's not going to hit the rest like this the rest of the season. But again, at least there's a little bit of longevity in this streak. Maybe he can... If he stays with the team and doesn't get hurt or whatever, and if he finishes the season at 260, 270, then maybe they're going to give him a reasonable look for next year.
Yeah, and I said it to you pre-show. I think Dickerson is the reason that after Duggar came back from injury that they put him back in the minors, because he's just not on a rehab assignment now. He was reassigned to the Sacramento River Cats. Yeah. And I think Dickerson is the reason for that. And to a lesser extent, Yastrzemski's stepping it up a little bit. And you go back to Pillar's numbers too, 462, 2 homers, 10 runs driven in over the last week. He also is a reason why Duggar is back down getting seasoning again, because the Giants were tired of the strikeouts and stuff like that, which is okay. The Giants have, it's really freaking impressive what Zaidi has done. The starting outfield this season was, Connor Joe, Michael Reed.
Yes, I pulled it out.
I wanted to say Red. I for some reason I picture that basketball player Red who had 2 D's on the last of his name. Oh, right. So I get those confused. But it's impressive to see what Zaidi has done. Yeah, he churned through a bunch of guys. We've had 18 million guys play left field, but they finally landed on some guys that can contribute. And this speaks to what Zaidi does. Dickerson's not going to be a Muncie, but he could be a half of a Muncie. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And it really is a testament to management finally getting and finding the pieces that they need, because this team, it just looks about 10 times better than they looked in the month of April, especially the month of May too. May was really, really when they seemed to be in the doldrums. And, I really give Zaidi a lot of credit for finding Dickerson, for finding Yastrzemski, and cycling in these guys that are contributing to the team and being willing to give Slater another shot and do things like that. Donovan Solano, he had a 10-game hitting streak recently, which was his longest hitting streak in 7 years, which is weird to think that a guy went 7 years between 10-game hitting streaks. So, you got to give credit to Zaidi here for finding this. And as it was pointed out to me the other day, and I totally agree with this, when the Giants start trading away pieces, he's going to do the same thing with the bullpen. He's going to go find those kind of guys that they need to plug in and rebuild that. So I think that by having Dickerson and Yastrzemski and those guys succeed, it really is a testament to Zaidi, and what he's starting to do. What he's doing is starting to work.
The Who's Not list is not really populated. I didn't even put in Pomerantz because we know he's just been crap in the bed. Joe Panic, kind of his struggles continue. 154 the last 7 games. For the most part, guys like Crawford's hurt. I should say Posey and Belt and others have been kind of just, mediocre, middle of the road, 250-ish. So no one really sticking out like a sore thumb too much, which is a good thing. Usually our Who's Not list is much more populated than our Who's Hot list.
Yep.
And this goes without saying. Guys like Jeff Samardzija and a couple others that have definitely been contributing as of late, Pablo Sandoval and others. So it's been really good to see. Hopefully this will continue for quite some time. Well, tonight is probably one of the more fun events of the All-Star break, and it used to be kind of a long, drawn-out event. I still watched it, but it did get to the point where it was just so many commercial breaks, and the players took so long to hit their home runs with all of their breaks, with kids coming up in Gatorade and towels, and it was just like, oh my God, this is just, can I just hit fast forward? So most years I actually did record it and start it later so I could skip through all that BS. But the Home Run Derby lately, I like the new format. I like that they've had the last couple of years where it's a timed format where they only have X amount of seconds in each round, and they have a couple of timeouts they can take, and they can also hit bonus balls for extra time. Kind of makes it feel more like a video game, and a little bit more, they have to be a little bit more strategic about it, not only in the pace that they set and how many pitches can be thrown per minute, but also when they take their breaks and how much do they really ramp up and focus and do whatever they need to do, if anything, for the money balls, if you will, the colored balls. So I like it. But the format tonight, I think, is what I've heard, is pretty much the same as last year. Have you heard anything different?
No, it's the same thing.
Yeah, so tonight's participants, unfortunately, we had a late scratch yesterday. Christian Yelich hurt his back. It was reported that he actually was practicing for the Home Run Derby the other day, and they haven't said if those two things are related or not. He's still slotted to start the All-Star game on Tuesday, so I guess it's not a debilitating injury, but it's an injury which he thought provided he needed to come out of the Derby. He didn't want to, exacerbate the injury anymore.
When you swing a baseball bat over and over and over and over and over again, like you do for the Derby, you're just constantly working those muscles, and that twist, that the way we twist our hips, and it's just not natural movements. It really isn't. So I totally understand Yelich not wanting to possibly exacerbate some injury, although it would have been really, really fun to see him in it. I remember a tweet going by the other day where he was practicing in Pittsburgh, and he hit one to the river as he was practicing. So he was gearing up for it. This wasn't like a, oh, hey, I'm going to be named to it, but then I'm going to say no. He was gearing up for it. So that there must have been a really, really big tweak for him to decide not to do it. Yeah, so the bracket.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. The bracket tonight. The 8 entrants are Matt Chapman, Oakland; Vladimir Guerrero, Toronto; Alex Bregman, Houston; Jock Peterson, Dodgers. He's the replacement. Oh, no. Sorry. Chapman's the replacement for Yelich. Pete Alonso, the rookie of the Mets, who leads all the players in this home run contest with 30 home runs. Carlos Santana of the Indians. I guess they had to put a hometown guy in there. And then Josh Bell of the Pirates and Ronald Acuna of the Braves. And do you have an early feel on who you think may come out on top tonight?
I don't know. I think there's been such a resurgence, or just this, not even a renaissance, really a career-defining year by Josh Bell. I think he could be a sleeper candidate. I think he has a pretty good chance of taking it. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I think, is a hot pick for a lot of people, just because he just mashes and mashes and mashes. And they showed him, he was warming up in the Sky Dome or the Rogers Center, and he was absolutely tattooing the ball. But I think quite often we look at these big mashers, and they don't necessarily have the endurance to last it out. And so that's why I don't think I would put I think he could come out in the first round and destroy Matt Chapman, but I don't think he's going to last. So, but I think I'm going to put my money on Josh Bell. I have a weird feeling about that. I think same thing. Pete Alonso's a masher. I just don't know if he has the endurance to last.
Well, that's who I'm going with, Pete Alonso. He seems like a guy to me who just loves the home run contest type thing. He just absolutely, I mean, he's a masher, like you say. I mean, 30 home runs before. He's already broken the Mets rookie record for home runs, and the All-Star break just got here. Yeah. I mean, he broke Darryl Strawberry's record, and we're all like, Darryl was amazing back in the day. So it's kind of blows your mind. I mean, in this format, like I'm with you. I think Guerrero Jr. might beat Chapman. I think Jock might take down Bregman in the first round. I can see Pete Alonso taking down Santana, and I'm with you on Josh Bell. I really am. Josh is a good sleeper. I'm really impressed with the voters that they got it right with Josh Bell and voted him into the All-Star game at first base because he's having a great season. And so I think it's going to come down to Pete Alonso and Jock, and I think Alonso is going to take it. But, I mean, yeah. Whoever knows. Last year I picked Javi Baez, and I think he hit like barely any, and Schwarber ended up being the masher of the bunch, and then Harper took it over. Yep. Which was it was a lot of fun last year with Harper. It really was. And yeah, it was. You would hope that somebody like Santana, being the hometown guy, could do the same thing, but I just don't see him hanging with the rest of this bunch. So I'll take Pete Alonso. I would put my money on him.
Yeah, no, that's why I mentioned him, just because like he can mash. I just don't know if he'll have the endurance. For all I know, Josh Bell may hit 3 in the first round and get out. I don't know the guy. A lot of people on KNBR were picking Acuna Jr. and I just was kind of like, I mean, he's a little guy. I mean, he mashes. Don't get me wrong. I just don't see him outmashing some of these other guys. But he actually. I also looked at the Vegas odds too, just before the show, and they have Acuna at the worst odds of winning the home run derby at 10-1. So there's that. Anyway, that'll be fun. Hey, if you want to go have a shot at $250,000, you can go put in your bracket at the T-Mobile Bracket Challenge on MLB.com. And I guess the way it goes is you have to pick a perfect bracket, and on top of that, you have to guess the longest home run or the home run of the winner. Anyway, you have to forecast the exact distance to the exact foot, and it's the only way you can win. And if you do tie with someone, apparently they have additional tiebreakers. I don't know what those are. I have not officially put in a bracket yet, but
yeah, I was gonna say I was looking at that. I haven't done it. I haven't done it either, just because that last little caveat that you mentioned, the whole longest home run thing. I mean, it's like filling out a NCAA bracket, because you always have to fill out the final score of the last game as the tiebreaker. So it's similar to that, but it's a lot more instant gratification, because we'll know by the end of the night who takes it down, and then that rolls into the All-Star game on Tuesday. And the starters for this year's All-Star game are Justin Verlander of the Astros and Hyunjin Ryu of the Dodgers, both absolute deserving candidates. Unless they wanted to go with an opener and use Will Smith, but I mean, I digress.
That'd be awesome. What if that'd be so cool?
That'd be so funny. Dave Roberts is like, yeah, I'm going to use the opener. I mean, no, yeah, that'd be hilarious. Yeah, that'd be great. But, I get, that Ryu gets the nod. It's his, manager doing it as well.
Yeah, it makes sense.
He's been dominant too this year. He really, really absolutely has. Yeah, Yelich is leading off in the National League tonight, so he is absolutely in there. And Josh Bell will be the DH, and Freddie Freeman will be the starting first baseman.
Yep. Baez at short, Bellinger right field, Arenado third base, Contreras catching, Marte at second, and Acuna in center field. What's really interesting, you look at the American League starters, and out of the top 9, or out of the 9 hitters, they have 3 Astros, and if you include the starter, that's 4 out of the 10 starters are Astros. You got George Springer in right, Alex Bregman, Michael Brantley, and then Justin Verlander. I mean, that's crazy to see 4 starters. The Giants have 1 reserve, and here the Astros have 4 in the starting lineup. That's crazy. But I mean, the Giants have
even the defending champs.
Yeah,
even the defending champs don't have any. I mean, J.D. Martinez is starting at DH. That's the only starter the defending champs have.
And the only reason he's starting is because Hunter Pence is injured. It should have been him. And in fact, Martinez wouldn't have even been on the roster at all. But he was invited to come because Pence, unfortunately, is injured with his groin. And I was still surprised by that, only in the sense of, like, you're the DH. Like, if you hit a ground ball to short, don't run it out. You know what I mean? You're not out in the field. So if you hit a fly ball, you strike out, you ground out, just jog it out, man. jog it out. I don't know if they're worried about, maybe he gets a clean single, gets to first. Then what happens? Do you put in a pinch hitter for him right away? It's like, well, then he's got to run. If he can't run, then, so I understand they're probably thinking about a whole myriad of things, but, I guess it's also very classy by Hunter Pence because maybe he's also thinking, I don't want to be that selfish. We'll let someone else come in and take my spot who's healthy, because he still gets the credit for being a starter. He's still there. He was being interviewed by Nick Swisher, the ever energetic Nick Swisher, which is crazy. So yeah, he still gets all those accolades and gets to sit in the dugout. He just doesn't get his AB. So
no, and the Rangers are kind of in the race a little bit over on the American League side. They have a winning record. So Pence is also thinking long term, and you can appreciate something like that. I for us Giants fans though, that was our guy. That was going to be our guy in the game.
I know. That's just bummed.
Yep, totally is.
Rounding out the American League starting roster is DJ LeMahieu, who's pretty much the Yankees All-Star, or MVP, I should say, this year. At second base, Mike Trout, of course, as always, the perennial center fielder. Batting third, Carlos Santana of the Indians. JD Martinez, who we mentioned, and Gary Sanchez starting behind the dish from the Yankees. And then Jorge Polanco, the up-and-coming shortstop from the Twins, which is kind of a surprise, but he's had a hell of a year. So we won't read all of the reserves to you, but they have a massive reserve roster on each one. But I'm just going to go ahead with my prediction. This is just for fun. It's an exhibition game. You really can't predict anything. The MVPs every year are like, who? Like, it's shooting fish in a barrel. You really don't know who it's going to be. American League seems to dominate this over the last 10 plus years. So I'm still going to stick with the American League plus their home team. And I think Bregman, who's not going to do well in the home run derby, is going to shine here. I think he's going to have, kind of a 2 for 3, 3 for 4 kind of night, and he'll be the MVP.
I'll go with Trout just because, it's Trout. And he won it last year, and I believe that was his second All-Star Game MVP. And he is just on fire right now. Like, talk about somebody who doesn't want the All-Star break to come. Every time I look up on my timeline when baseball's going on, Trout with another homer. He had one to dead center yesterday that was just absolutely a bomb to tie the game against Houston, and the Angels eventually lost that. As Kipe liked to say, we got a good old-fashioned American League game going on in Houston. It's 10-10. It was funny. I totally noticed that too. And when the Giants game ended, I switched over, but Springer had just ended it. But I'm going to stick with Trout just because, he's Mike freaking Trout. And when all is said and done, he's probably going to be the best player of all time. And that really pains me. That really pains me to say, just because I think Willie is. But I'll stick with Trout. Unless Ryu, just buzzes right through that American League order, but they don't leave pitchers out there long enough anymore. So it's really hard for a pitcher to win the MVP. So my hope is my prediction is that Trout will win the MVP and the American League will win. But my hope is that the National League wins and Will Smith gets the save. Yeah,
Trout has just been unbelievable. 28 bombs leading the American League. 67 RBI, leads the American League, and he's 12th in batting average at 301. DJ LeMahieu leads at 336. So, probably not going to win the Triple Crown this year, but his OPS also right now is ridiculous. He's the only regular American leaguer over 1,000, and he's almost 1,100. He's 1.098. Carlos Santana is second at .958. That is quite a bit behind. That is 140 points behind Mike Trout. And that's how good this guy is. And as you mentioned, he may go down as one of the best of all time because you have to factor in his defense and his speed, and it's been there. And he's just so fun to just watch. He puts his nose down. He just works through it. He's not an egotistical guy. And his swing, it may not be the prettiest in terms of fluidity, but I would say it's one of the most technically precise swings, because he knows how to take any pitch anywhere on the plate and do exactly what he wants to do with it, including that, just like Barry Bonds, he's so good at that inside pitch of throwing the elbows out early and getting the barrel on the ball, but still be behind it. And then he can just flick those wrists and use his legs and drive the ball, where you and I get a pitch like that, not at 98 miles an hour, but at a reasonable speed. and that's when it hits way up on the bat, and we're just, our hands are flaring in pain. They just know what to do with these pitches. It's just a clinic when you watch him out there.
Yeah, and he's going to be an angel for life. So
which is cool.
He's got to.
I think it's good for the game.
Yeah, it is, but he's got to do something because who knows? He's only made the playoffs once, and they got swept by the Royals. So
there's that to be said too. So you kind of see a potential top 5, top 10 player in the history of baseball basically not ever win a world championship, much less even have a sniff of the playoffs. It's hard. I mean, the Angels still has another 10 years left in his career, so anything could happen. But yeah, he's not like going to the Yankees or anything like that.
No, and I appreciate that because it's just the Yankees. It's amazing what the Yankees are doing this year with all their injuries. When they came in and they swept the Giants, we're like, this is the C team. It wasn't even the B team.
Yeah.
And they don't even have everybody healthy, but DJ LeMahieu doing what he does, shows that playing in Coors was no fluke. And the Yankees are kind of, I don't want to say they're running away with it, but they've got like a 7-game lead or something like at this point. So I look forward to the All-Star game. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I'll never forget when Kane started. I'll never forget when Timmy started back in, I want to say that was 2009 that Timmy started the All-Star game.
Yeah, then Kane started and then Cueto started one year. So.
Oh, that's right. He did. Yeah. And so, it's an honor. It's great. And just as somebody who played baseball growing up, you don't strive to be an all-star, but you kind of do. And so when you get named to those all-star teams, it feels so darn good. And you know that you get to play with the best, around. And, those were always some of my favorite. I still have memories in my mind. I have memories in my mind of an all-star game I played in when I was 9 years old because my dad sent a runner home and everybody was like, what are you doing? The guy scored because my dad forced the action. We always talk about it, forced the fielders to make a play. And he did that. And we actually ended in a tie because of that run. But here I am 31 years later, still remembering an all-star game from when I was 9 years old. So, it's one of those things that harkens back to childhood. Everybody likes it. And, if it doesn't rain too much, we'll probably pull out the grill for the all-star game and grill up some hot dogs because, Americana, that's it at its finest.
Yeah, no, it is. It's pretty cool. In the amateur league I played in, the San Jose Men's Baseball Senior Baseball League, I made the All-Star team twice, once in 2009 and in 2011, and they played at San Jose Muni, where the San Jose Giants play, and that was a lot of fun. We got to play under the lights, be in the dugouts. They had, it was tickets to come in. They had concession stands. They had the announcer, announcing everything, the music in between innings. I mean, it was a full-on legit thing, and it was a really cool experience. They announce you, you run out of the dugout, you go down the line, giving high fives to everyone, both lines, and then you have the national anthem and play ball. And I just totally just, will cherish those 2 years, those memories. There's some guys that I know that made the All-Star team every year for 10 straight years because they were truly the best in the league. But I had a couple of really good years and, had that opportunity. So I know that it's nothing compared to the major leagues, but I know that anyone who's going there for the first time, or maybe because they're young, or maybe the second time late in their career, including Hunter Pence, who said he just really appreciates this because he thought he was out of the league. And here he is finding himself as an all-star. So you appreciate it. It's a lot of fun, and you try to put yourself in their shoes and understand, what it's like to be out there. Be damned what happens with the score. Right. Because being out there in the field, I didn't care what the score was. We won both games, our league, but I didn't care. I was just out there to experience it. It was so much fun.
And that's what the major leaguers turn into. They turn into little kids. We'll see it a lot tonight during the Derby, and we'll see it during the All-Star game because they're in awe of each other just as much as we're in awe of them. And it's funny because the American League manager, Alex Cora, he never made an All-Star team. This is his first All-Star game, and he's the manager of the team. which is really cool. So not only is it, like you said, the young guys or a late veteran, you got Alex Cora, who's in his 40s, making his first all-star team. So that's part of it. I love seeing the players just revere each other. I know that there are National League guys who are like, I can't wait to see Mike Trout. I know there are American League guys who are like, I can't wait to see Cody Bellinger. And who can blame them?
That's really cool. Well, last night they had the Futures game in Cleveland, and the Giants did have two representatives, being Joey Bart and Helio Ramos. And they had brief appearances. Bart went 0 for 2 with a strikeout, and Ramos, sorry, I said Ramos earlier. Ramos went 1 for 1. So nothing spectacular from either of the two, but the game did end at a 2-2 tie. So not too much to report on that end.
Now, and I shared it before, Zach Green was just named the PCL Player of the Week for the Sacramento River Cats. I believe he had 4. I already clicked off it, but I believe he had 4 homers this past week. So Giants minor leaguers getting in there. And it's funny because Zach Green I brought up last time we did this. Yep. So it was nice to see him. It was nice to see him doing it. And then this week in Giants history, I wrote it. I don't know this week. I have a notebook with stuff ahead of time. The reason I'm going to share with you, dear listener and reader, I was not able to write much over the last month is my brother-in-law was in town and my office got hijacked. So now that he's gone and the All-Star break is here and it will come and gone, I'll start ramping up the This Week in Giants histories again. Chances are I'm going to find something in All-Star game history, maybe the Carl Hubble striking out 5 Hall of Famers in a row in 1936, 34, one of those. I don't remember off the top of my head. So I'll find something like that, but there should be a new This Week in Giants history coming your way probably Thursday before the second half of the season starts going.
Very awesome. All right, well, coming up for the Giants after the All-Star break, it's going to be 3 in Milwaukee and then 4 in Colorado, although it looks like if we record next Monday, we're going to be recording during the first game of 2 that day. There's going to be a doubleheader on Monday in Colorado, a makeup from a rainout or whatever back in May, so they're going to have 4 there. So most likely you'll be listening to this next week, maybe after there are a couple of games in Colorado. But yeah, that's going to be fun and a pretty good test. Hey, the Giants are only 1 game under 500 on the road this year. They're playing better on the road than they are at home, so I have no problem with them going to Milwaukee. Like you said, it's a hitter's park. Brewers have not been playing extremely well as of late. Giants are hot, and then they go into Colorado, which God knows anything can happen there. And the Rockies have lost like 6 or 7 in a row, or 6 out of 7. So, the Giants might be striking right at the opportune time to take this road series coming up.
Yeah, I really feel like those games in Milwaukee and Colorado will give us a sense as to whether or not the team did kind of finally figure something out or if that was just a hot streak. Because if they go into Milwaukee and they score like 4 runs over 3 games, or if they go into Colorado and score like 10 runs over 4 games, we'll kind of be like, whoa, wait a second, what's going on? But if they go out and they start hitting again, I think it's a good sign for the second half.
Yeah, and if they go 1-6 or 2-5 on this roadie, it's kind of like, well, okay, we're right back to where we were. If anything better than 3-4, at least they're doing okay. So we'll see what happens. All right, well, that's going to do it for episode 171 of the TorchiCast. You can follow us collectively at TorchiCast on Twitter or give us a like and share on Facebook. You can also check out our website where we post everything, articles and podcasts. You know where to find your podcast because you're listening to it right now. It's where you can download that. Our website is torchcast.com. You can follow us individually at 2 Out Hits. That's with the number 2 for Eric. Myself at ChadK21. All right, so Eric, you're going to go play some poker, I take it.
Yeah. I'd like to disappear and go play some poker, but I'm going to wait till the World Series of Poker ends next week. I don't want to say I'm a bit of a gambler, but I'm a bit of a poker player. It has gotten me through some times in my life. So, yeah, the wife and I we are glued to the couch this week. Usually I am stuck in my office doing a lot of stuff, but we've got the poker on the big screen. Like, that's why I'm not going to lie. That's part of why the Giants have been second screened lately is because of the poker. And I'm actually kind of thrilled that the break is here because I'm not kidding. I know it's boring to people, but I could watch 10 hours, 12 hours of poker a day and be totally satisfied.
I used to watch so much poker, and I still love it. I just don't have the time to anymore. But it is a lot of fun, especially when you're sitting there knowing what everybody on the table has. And kind of do that. I do like it though once in a while, and I don't recall if I don't think they do this for World Series of Poker coverage, but in a lot of the other tournaments for the World Poker Tour or Stars or whatever, where they would have a couple of episodes or at least a couple of hands where they didn't show you anything, and so you're just kind of trying to be that guy who's reading the table, which is hard to do from a TV perspective because you're not sitting there. But those are always kind of fun, trying to put players on certain hands and then either nailing it or being totally off. Because, when you know everything, you're just sitting there going, oh, my God, bet everything. He's bluffing, and you're like, yeah, but he doesn't know that. And so.
Well, I'll drop it here. My goal for next year is to play in that World Series of Poker tournament in the main event. So that is my long-term goal for the year because I'm going to be getting back into poker a little bit more as this year goes on. So I had a nice talk with myself the other day, and that's the long-term goal.
Very good, man. Well, I hope to see you there next year. Hopefully it'll be like, well, we can't record again this week because Eric is continually advancing in the World Series of Poker in Vegas. So
that's my hope as well.
Tune in to this stream on ESPN to watch Eric take down the next table. That'd be great.
Yeah, right. Daniel Negreanu could read through my soul. I'm not too.
Can always hope and dream, baby. People have done it before. All right. Well, that'll do it for 171. We will see you next week for episode 172. Until then, enjoy the All-Star break and the Home Run Derby, and we'll see you then. Boom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.